Martina Thornhill. I'm Canadian. So we moved from Vancouver area to California when I was in 3rd grade. And we were down there for like 6 years. My dad works for like big construction companies, and so we would kind of move with his work. So we were there for 6 years, and then we moved to Bellingham, Washington. And I did high school and a little bit of college there. Like, my parents were always very supportive of me doing crafty things. Like, they would always sign me up for like sewing classes or, you know, whatever I wanted along those lines, which is really lovely. And my grandma's really crafty, so we would spend our summers in Canada at a lake that my grandma has a house at. And it rains a lot in Canada, even in the summer. So my grandma had all these like 1970s craft books, and her and I would just go through and do all the projects. So it was definitely like learning all these different skills was definitely like encouraged in me as a kid, which is really lovely. And I'm attempting to do that with my own child now. I graduated Seaholm. I started going to Western Washington, which is a college in Bellingham, and he moved down to Portland, and I decided to move too. So I dropped out of Western and I moved down here too. And then I was supposed to go to PSU, and I just decided I didn't want to go to school anymore, and so I stopped going. I did like AmeriCorps, and I did domestic violence counseling for a while, and I bartended, and did all that sort of stuff. And then we were living here until 2000, that was like 2002, 2003, and then we lived here till 2011, and then we moved back east to like be closer to my mother-in-law because she was sick and we wanted to help her out. So we were in upstate New York in a small town where there just really wasn't much of anything to do. So I started taking ceramics classes again, which I hadn't done since I was like 19. I think I was like 28, 29 at that time. So I started taking wheel classes, and I had this like vision of what I was gonna make, and my like capabilities absolutely did not match that at all. And that teacher kept being like, I think you should try hand building, and I felt like hand building was kind of looked down upon in some way. I don't know, that was like the perception I had of it, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that, like teach me how to throw. She kept encouraging me to like hand build, and I didn't do it. And then when we moved down to North Carolina, like 8 months later, I signed up for ceramics again, and again my teacher was like, you really should try hand building. And so I started doing it, and I really liked it. It like clicked in my head, and like it's the same kind of like pattern drafting, fabric draping kind of thing as like all my sewing background stuff. So it really made sense to me. So when Dodge was born, so before Dodge was born, it was like, this is just all I did 24/7. I would work like 80 hours a week at it. I would, you know, spend all my weekends, all my nights, like anytime I could, I would basically be doing something related to this. And then after he was born, it was like the sudden shock of like readjustment, and then I wasn't doing any ceramics for the first 4 months, which was like a really weird, vulnerable space. I like started feeling like I was gonna lose everything that I'd like spent the last like 5 years building, and it made me feel really scared. But I just kind of had to trust that it would still be there. And then as he got older, I was able to like create more time. My husband and I would just kind of like work out the schedule. So be like, okay, well, these times you can come in and create some sort of set schedule, which was really helpful. But still, I'd put Dodge down for bed, and then I'd go out to the studio and work until like 12 or midnight or 1 in the morning or whatever, you know. Until this last year, actually, I've always worked another job on the side. And part of that wasn't necessarily because I have to. Part of it was like a fear thing, like not wanting to fully commit to what I was doing, because that was scary. But also just like to always have some other money coming in on like a more regular basis, because the way that I run my studio now is that like I do shop updates like once a month. So I get an influx of money once a month, and that's it. And then I have to like budget the rest of it for the month, which can be kind of tricky when you're used to, like me for bartending for years, I was used to having money coming in daily. You know, from those shifts or from working a normal job every 2 weeks, you know, it helps you like span it out. So it's a little tricky sometimes. And my husband works as well, so we have his income to kind of like carry us through too. I think it's helpful to have another job to help support you, so you can like focus on this without the pressure of it like having to fully provide for you financially at first. I know a lot of people say that like you got to make sure that you're fully prepared, you know, like this can fully support you before you like make that leap. But I think you can do the two simultaneously, and I think that's okay. Like growing your own business can happen in whatever way you define it. You know, like that's your own business. That growth can look like whatever you want it to be, and it doesn't mean that your business has to be like huge. and support you fully. Like, if you just want to have it as like a thing that pays for some of your stuff and allows you to like have all your creative practice paid for, like, that's 100% okay, you know. There are some drawbacks to doing it as a full business, you know. Like, I used to do a lot of other creative projects and had time for all those creative projects, and now I only have time for this one, which I love and I feel happy for. But every once in a while I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, before I did this full time for money, like, I did have other outlets, you know. So that's kind of like the give and take there. But I mean, I think you just go slow. I mean, I'm 7 years into this now, and I'm just like fully committing to it now. And sometimes that feels a little funny. I'm like, cool, so I'm like 35 and I'm finally like, okay, I think I can do this, but like, whatever. Like, that's the timeline that it's happening on for me, and like, I'm not gonna judge that. I'm just like happy that it's happening. And for however long it happens, like, there's no guarantee that this is gonna last forever. But I'm just like grateful for all the time that I have with it. I don't know, I've done a few normal jobs over time. Like, I worked at a fabric factory in North Carolina, like printing fabrics to order, and like production work, like Laverne and Shirley, basically. And like, that was cool. But I always felt like a little bored. It was like hard for me, and that type of like work scenario was hard for me. And part of that's because I did like service industry for so long that like having like this like formal framework when it was like, okay, well now here's your 1 year review and what are your strengths and weaknesses that you like need to work on, and that just like, it's really hard for me. I don't know why, but it like really, I can do it. It's fine, you know, in the same way that everybody else, like, it's like, this is just what it is. This is what you do. I can do that. It was just like a struggle, and I felt like I had the ability to create something else. And so I like wanted to do that. I've always wanted to just like work for myself, and like I'm an intelligent enough person. I'm creative enough. I felt like this is something I could do. It was just a matter of finding something that clicked. I want to live it, you know, like, I don't want to just be in the drudge, in the working, and the making ends meet, you know. I want to be experiencing my life. Like, I feel like I've sacrificed some sort of safety for that, but it's like more important to me to just get to actually like do my things, you know, to get to spend the time traveling. And that stuff's taken a bit of a backseat, you know, since Dodge was born. It was definitely like, oh shit, like, now there's a kid that we have to like, okay, I gotta plan for this kid. There's things that he needs, and there's things that like stability that needs to be there that maybe didn't need to be there so much before. And then there's like that stress of like getting older. I'm like, okay, so I'm in like my mid-30s, like, are we supposed to have things now that we don't have, you know? But I don't know, it's just, I want to enjoy my life. And like, I enjoy doing this. I enjoy like having all the time to hang out with my child, and I feel like the benefits for him having that growing up like outweigh the benefits of him just having like some money. You know, like, I don't know, money's not really like my focus. It's lovely to have it. It makes things way less stressful, but it's just not really like my focus. And like, even when I think about growing this business, like, I don't want it to grow into something that's crazy huge and I have like 14 employees and a huge warehouse. Like, that's not an end goal for me. Like, end goal for me would be for me to work in here 3 days a week, for me to work 3 weeks a month, and to like have a full week off every month to just like travel and hang out with my family and go do fun things that feel like I'm actually using my life for something useful. So I feel so proud of like what I've built and what I've been able to do without like a whole lot of, I mean, help and support within my family, but I didn't have anybody giving me like money to fund any of this. I didn't start with a trust fund. I didn't start with a bunch of connections. I didn't go to like RISD and like leave with all these like art connections that then like help me bolster it. Like, I don't have any of that. This is just like me trying to figure things out on my own and being like, I think this will work. Maybe it'll work. I don't know, let's try it. You know, like, I've learned from a lot of those mistakes. Definitely like learning how to set up your business in a legitimate way from the very beginning was probably something I should have done, that I'm like just figuring out in the last couple of years. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that should have been done differently, you know. The move to the studio, we didn't have the funds for that. I basically like kickstarted it myself through my website by like pre-selling things, and I was like, okay, I have this many things, this is how much money I need to do this move. Let's see what happens, you know. And then I had to fulfill all of those you know, before the holiday season, which was really stressful and scary, but it's done, and it happened, and I'm here. Just gotta be like creative and trust that it'll work out, trust that it'll be okay, and that if it's not, like, There's time. Figure out something else. It's not a big deal. You know? At least you get the happiness when you get it. I'll take that.